I am so overwhelmed. I have way too many things on my to-do list. How will I ever get everything done? Does this sound like you? We've all been there. No worries. Tune into today's show so we can show you how to have a stress-free start to your new year.
Welcome to Mental Fitness Matters, the podcast that dives deep into all things mental health and wellness. Host Tracy Alston, with the occasional help from industry experts, explores the tools, strategies, and stories that can help us all build resilient minds and improve performance at work, home, and in sport. And now your host, mental health and performance guru, Tracy Alston.
Hey, Mental Fitness Matters family. I am pumped to be joining you today, kicking off a new season of the Mental Fitness Matters show, your go-to source for navigating life's twists and turns. Today, we're going to kick off the show and kick off the year with a topic that hits very close to home. And that's beating anxiety and having a stress-free start to your new year. Let me ask you this. As you step into the new year, what if you could leave anxiety behind and embrace a fresh, stress-free start? Wouldn't that be amazing? Well, buckle up, because today I've got the tips and the tricks to help you get started for your new year or any new season of your life that you may be facing. Now, I don't know about you, but the new year for me always brings up a mixture of emotions. For me, there's a bit of excitement, because I'm always excited about things that I'm anticipating or projects that I've been working on for a while. I'm excited about those things finally coming to fruition. But there's also a bit of sadness. I lost my mom a few years back, so I'm still finding myself in like that grieving and healing process that never really finishes. And so when I think about the new year, it brings forth a lot of different emotions. And let's be honest, there's also a touch of anxiety in there, because there's so many variables and so many unknowns. So I like to think about starting off that new year, that feeling that I feel. It feels like standing at the edge of a thrilling roller coaster, ready for the ride, but with that little knot in your stomach. And if you're like, Tracy, I don't ride roller coasters, I would never get on one. No worries. Have you ever noticed the feeling that you felt before completing or starting a challenge or overcoming a fear? You know that little feeling that you get in your stomach? That little stressful feeling that you might feel? That's what I'm talking about. If you have that about starting a new season or starting the new year, no worries, because today's episode is going to be your guide to turning anxiety and stress into excitement and setting the stage for a fresh start to your new year. Before we dive into the solutions, let me first introduce you to a different concept or a different way of thinking about anxiety. Think about anxiety like an uninvited guest to a party. You didn't invite them, but they're there. They're mingling with your thoughts, bringing a whole bag of what ifs and a playlist of worst case scenarios. Talk about a party crasher. Who invited this guy? Anxiety is no different. It's very similar. It shows up, sometimes unwanted, unexpected, but it doesn't have to dictate the vibe of your celebration. So today, what I want to be able to do is not just teach you how to show that anxiety or show that feeling to the door. I want to give you some tools, some strategies and solutions that you can feel confident enough, you can feel equipped, that when those feelings show up, you can recognize what it is, you can take charge, and you can take control back over your life. So let's jump into a few tips for your new year on how to beat anxiety. I love acronyms. And what an acronym is, it's just a way to use letters of words so that way you can remember what's being said, the information being provided. So I'm going to use an acronym today, and it's going to be called C.A.R.E, C-A-R-E. You're going to be able to use this tool that when you start to feel the feeling that we're talking about, that pit in your stomach or those unknowns, that uncertainty, you can remember CARE so that you can take charge of your life, take charge of your feeling, and get into the driver's seat. So let's start with tip number one. We're going to start with the C. That's going to be change your narrative. So anytime you start to kind of get in this mode where you're starting to worry or stress out about what's to come, about those unknowns, the very first thing you want to think about is changing your narrative. Oftentimes, anxiety is fueled by the stories that we tell ourselves. Those what-if scenarios that seem to play on a loop in our minds, we've all been there. And sometimes once we go down that rabbit hole, it's so hard to come back, right? Well, what if we learned how to flip the script? What if instead of anticipating the worst, we started imagining the best? Our mind is so powerful. In the work that I do every single day, we look at our brain, we understand brain energy and our understanding our thoughts and how much power they have. So what if you can learn how to flip the script? And if our thoughts are power and our thoughts have fuel, think about those things like gasoline on a fire. Negative thoughts can spread very quickly, but the opposite is also true. With practice, positive thoughts can also spread very quickly. So my question to you, how can you change or reframe your narrative and turn that anxiety-producing thought into something very empowering? So think about that. How can you change that anxiety-producing thought into something very empowering? Let me give you an example. So if we want to change our narrative, starting with the C, that first anxiety-producing thought can be the first example that I gave at the top of the show. I have so many things on my to-do list. I am so overwhelmed. How will I ever get all of this done? That's your anxiety-producing thought. We've all had those thoughts, been there, done that. So a way that you can begin to practice changing that narrative or reframing that thought, you could say, I have a lot on my plate, but I can manage my task effectively. Each completed task is a step towards my goal, and I am in control of my priorities. I am capable of handling whatever comes my way. In this example, the initial thought carries a sense of overwhelm and a feeling of being out of control. But when we can take a step back, so if my first thought is causing me to feel more stress, more anxiety, more overwhelm, if we could take a step back and engage in the practice of changing our narrative, we begin to acknowledge the workload, okay? We know we have a lot going on, we all do. We acknowledge the workload, but we shift the focus to capability and control. Controlling the controllables. What do I have control over, okay? I have a lot on my plate, but I can manage my task effectively. This empowering thought fosters a mindset that encourages proactive problem solving and a positive approach to the challenges ahead. So you just put yourself from being out of control to being in control. It doesn't change what's happening. Yes, you have a lot on your plate, but now if you can go into this situation feeling like I can manage my task, that's a different ballgame, okay? So the first tip is change your narrative. All right. Let's get to tip number 2, the A in C.A.R.E. Remember C.A.R.E., the A. This is going to be activating your power of pause. This is one of my favorites because this is going to put you in an action mode that you're going to be able to immediately find yourself different ways to activate your power of pause. Now think about this. In the hustle and bustle of a new year or just a new season in general, depending on when you're listening to this show, it's easy to get swept away in the chaos. But what if I told you that intentionally taking a moment to pause can be a game changer? Picture this. You feel that anxiety rolling up, those anxiety-producing thoughts, you feel that stress creeping in, and instead of letting it take over you, you take a deliberate pause. You breathe, you center yourself, and suddenly you're back in the driver's seat. Wouldn't that be amazing? Absolutely. So I'm going to give you a simple but powerful strategy. It's called 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. It's a grounding technique that forces you to stop, take a deep breath, and engage your senses. And what I mean by senses, I'm talking about your sight, so what you see. I'm talking about your touch. I'm talking about what you hear. I'm talking about what you smell. And I'm talking about what you can taste. Now, let me tell you how this works. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You're going to first, wherever you are, let's say you're in a moment and just of overwhelm, something's come over you, you can't really get yourself under control. The first thing you're going to do is name 5 things you can see. So you want to begin to engage your senses. 5 things you can see. So wherever you are, you just take a look of what's going on right in front of you. Maybe it's looking out of a window. Maybe you have a coffee mug that you're holding. You can see that right in front of you. So put your attention on 5 different things that you can see. Make sure you say those out loud. The 4 is for touch. So whatever you're around right now, pick those things up. Maybe you have on pants or jeans, so maybe you can feel the fabric on your jeans. So you just rub your leg, you touch your leg, you can feel the fabric on your jeans. Maybe you're holding a pen or a pencil. You can feel that pen or pencil in your hand. So list off 4 different things that you can touch, okay? Number 3, what can you hear? So take a pause for a moment. What are those sounds going on around you? Are you outside? Can you hear the birds chirping? Can you hear cars going by? Do you hear that clock ticking? So take a moment to acknowledge 3 things that you can actually hear. The next one is what you can smell. 2 things that you can smell. So pause, smell things in. Maybe you're brewing a fresh cup of coffee. You can smell that. If you're outside, maybe you can smell that fresh cut grass. Whatever it is, list 2 things that you can immediately just stop and smell. Number 1, one thing that you can taste. Maybe you're chewing gum and you can taste the spearmint in your mouth. Maybe you just had a cup of coffee so you can taste the coffee taste in your mouth. So whatever it is, that one thing that you can taste. This not only grounds you guys, it puts you in the present moment and it disrupts the anxious thought pattern. The goal is to really allow yourself a real opportunity to pause, because oftentimes what happens, remember, the anxiety, the stress are just different stories that we continue to tell ourselves. So this activating your pause with 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 will allow you to consciously and intentionally bring yourself to a present moment, interrupting that thought pattern that is no longer serving you. So you're tapping into number 1, 5 things that you can remember. Say that out loud. 5 things that you can see. 4 things that you can hear. 4 things that you can touch. 3 things that you can hear. 2 things that you can smell. And 1 thing that you can taste. That's activating your pause. Making an intentional break. Make sure you do that throughout your day. I encourage people, because oftentimes when we think about stress and how those things pop up, in those moments when we need the tools the most, we're trying to go to it and just grab it instantly. And it's like, wait, nothing's working. If you can start to get into an intentional practice or deliberate practice of activating pause throughout your day, then being able to be mindful, being able to bring yourself back to present moment is going to be something that you can access on demand, and it's going to be more effective when you actually need it. Okay? So that is tip number 2. So begin to ask yourself, how can and how will activating the pause transform your experience of anxiety and stress in any new season of your life? Tip number 3, it's going to be for the R. Remember your stress-free toolkit. So the R is for remember. Remember your stress-free toolkit. So your stress-free toolkit, I'm going to teach you how to create that for yourself so that you can actually remember how to use it. Your stress-free toolkit, think about this, guys, as an arsenal or a toolbox against stress and anxiety. What tools, what practices, or what activities bring you joy and calm? So begin to think about that for yourself right now. What things do you do? What things do you engage in? What tools do you already have access to that bring you a sense of calm and joy? Whether it's a 5-minute meditation, it could be a quick 5-minute walk in nature. It could be a playlist of your favorite feel-good music. It could be something as simple as looking at pictures of special people, or places or special moments that you've been to in the past that bring you a sense of joy, that bring you a sense of peace, that bring you a sense of calm. Whatever it is, having a toolkit at your disposal can be a game changer. So the big question I want you to ask yourself, what will you include and what will you put into your stress-free toolkit for your new year or your new season of your life? And make sure you take some time to think about this. Don't just kind of throw some things in there. Make sure that whatever you're deciding on is something that you're really connected to, that you really feel a sense of calm and joy when you bring those things in, or when you bring those things up, or when you participate in that activity. And so make sure you also have several options, because when we think about who we are, when we think about the things that we need, they change and evolve over time just like we do. So it's okay to have your stress-free toolkit today. You may have one or two tools in there, but as you continue to learn, as you continue to grow, and as you continue to evolve, make sure you're adding these things to your toolbox. If it doesn't work today, that's okay. Try something else. Switch it up. Don't be afraid to make those changes, but you want to really become more self-aware and more connected to who you are and what you need, what's serving you and what's not. What's going to happen on this mental wellness journey that we're going down is that you're going to grab a hold of information. You're going to learn so much more about yourself once you're taking the time to say, you know what? I really enjoy being by a beach. The sound of the waves, the fresh, cool breeze on my skin, watching the sunrise, sunset, that does something for my spirit. If you've ever felt like that about anything that you've done, whether it's just the holiday season, what if that brings you a sense of joy? If it brings you more of something else, you might want to say, you know what? That's not the thing that draws me in. It can be something different for everyone. So take this time for this activity for tip number 3, remembering your stress-free toolkit. Create you something that you can really feel connected to, because you're going to need that in the long run when it comes to putting things together, making sure you're feeling like you're in control, that you're confident, and not being afraid to switch those things up. So the R is remembering your stress-free toolkit, putting things in there that bring you a sense of calm and joy, and allowing those things to be on repeat or changed out every once in a while. The last one is going to be for your E. Embrace the journey. Tip number 4, embrace the journey. This is one of my favorites, because I know we've all heard that cliche saying, the joy is in the journey, but that it couldn't be more true. The joy is in the journey. We have to learn to give ourselves some grace. We oftentimes take ourselves way too seriously. Think about all the things that we worry about. Every single thing at the top of the hour that I was just talking about. I'm so overwhelmed. I don't have enough time to complete this to-do list. I'm never going to get everything done. Think about all of these things that we are worrying about, or we've been afraid to try or do. How many of those things turned out to be just fine? The biggest stress was worrying about the thing that we were stressing about. But after we did it, after we accomplished it, after we met the challenge, after we overcame the fear, we were like, you know what? That wasn't so bad. New years and new beginnings oftentimes bring about so much pressure for people. This is a big time where people are setting up new affirmations, new goals, new things that they want to try. And so there's a lot of pressure to get things right, or to get things done, or to get things ... whatever it might be. Whether that's pressure that you're putting on yourself or perceived pressure from others, there is a lot of things that are on demand for people when it comes to a new beginning or a new season of their life. So when you're entering this chapter, when you're entering this phase, you're worried about whether or not you're going to fail, whether or not things are going to be successful. Whatever it is, we have to truly learn how to begin to embrace the journey. Without the highs and the lows, without the ups and the downs, without the failures, we don't grow. There's no growth. It doesn't mean it's going to be easy, but all of these things are necessary. So for tip number 4, this true practice of figuring out how I can embrace the journey of whatever path I'm on, it's key. This is going to help you if you just walk into that season or into that situation like, you know what? My goal, instead of it being something that I have to pass or fail, is going to be, I'm just going to have a good time. I'm just going to enjoy the ride. I'm going to enjoy the moment. I'm going to be present. I'm going to ground myself and take pause when I can. I'm going to reflect and remember some of those tools in my toolbox to keep this thing fun and calm and joyful. So this tip at the end of this here is going to really be for you to get in sync with yourself. Give yourself some permission to just be where you are. Give yourself some grace to not have to figure it all out, to get it all done. Just start. Just begin. Just do whatever that thing is that's been causing you a little worry, overwhelm, or stress. Okay? So I want you to get into a daily practice of CARE. C.A.R.E. And I truly believe and know that this will help you along your journey. It's going to help you gain better control over the waves of anxiety and stress and allow them to not be so overwhelming. Allow those things to not overtake you. Being intentional and creating a daily practice. This Mental Fitness Matters family is not just about, what can I do for the moment. It's about what can I start to do and create daily. What daily habits, daily intentions can I put in place that's going to allow me to be more resilient, more equipped to handle the highs and lows and the ups and downs of life? How can I get myself in the driver's seat to make sure I'm where I need to be? So let's go back through this Mental Fitness Matters family. We covered quite a bit today. I want you to remember you have the power to set the tone for any season of your life. You're going to start with that C. That's changing your narrative. Then you're going to go over to that A. Let me go back to the C real quick. Changing the narrative is the big one. Because oftentimes, again, guys, when we think about the things that are causing us the stress and the overwhelm, it's something that we've created in our mind. There's a reel that we're playing in our head that's causing us these thoughts to go down to a way that we don't want them to go. So the very first thing you got to do when you notice yourself doing this is change the narrative, flip the script. That A, remember, it's going to be activating the power of pause. You're in control of that. So as you're noting yourself with these thought patterns that are no longer serving you, activate the pause. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay? Name 5 things you can see. 4 things you can touch. 3 things you can hear. 2 things you can smell. And 1 thing you can taste. That's going to disrupt that negative thought pattern, getting you back to a more grounded and present place so that you can go on and do what you need to do. The R, remember your stress-free toolkit. All right? These are going to be things that bring you joy and calm. Joy and calm. Whether it's pictures, it's old memories, whether it's music, whether it's places, whether it's a meditation, what things fill your spirit in a positive way? Remember what they are. Utilize those things daily. Get into a daily practice and a habit of doing this. And then last but not least, embrace your journey. You got to have fun along the way. You can't just work, go, check off things on your to-do list. You want to make sure that you're embracing the journey, being present. That's where the joy is, okay? Now, you have all the necessary ingredients for a new year or a new season. And it's not just going to be about being anxiety-free, but we want this new season of your life to be full of excitement and joy. And as you're heading forth into the new year and new season, I just really hope this episode has brought you some comfort, has brought you some confidence, has brought you something that you feel like, you know what? I got a couple tools in my toolbox. Now I don't have to be so worried about things that I can't control. I can go into this season of my life or this chapter of my life a little bit more equipped than I have been in the past. And I'm excited about that. If that's you, I'm pumped for you. If you feel like this has been an episode that served you, feel free to like, subscribe, and share it with a loved one. We want to make sure that we're starting our year off mentally equipped and mentally fit to handle the challenges of life. So I want each and every one of you, my Mental Fitness Matters family, to go out, shine bright like the stars that we are, make this a new season for a new you. I look forward to seeing you guys soon. Can't wait to see you next time. Make sure you're tuning in. Have a great day.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Mental Fitness Matters. Be sure to subscribe wherever you heard this podcast so you never miss a future episode. If you found value in today's show, please share it with others. For more information or to connect with Tracy, you can visit her online and on Instagram at tracyalston.com and on LinkedIn and Facebook at Tracy Alston. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you next time.